Caller, I wish you and your spouse, significant other, the best. I hope the advice I gave you as far as you seeking out your own counseling for one another, I hope it helps. I know it's a tough situation. You never expect to walk in on your significant other, with a family member in that way. It's horrible. So please get the help you need, even if it's just for yourself. But if you're going to honestly try to keep that marriage going, then you're going to need to seek additional help. Remember that there are plenty of people out there for you. You can definitely look me up on the internet if you want to come to my own private practice. I'm there to help you. So anyhow, caller, thank you very much. You take care, and many blessings to you in your struggles for the future. Okay, callers. And listeners, thank you again for coming and visiting me this week. As promised, many of you have asked me, what is my secret? What am I doing when I'm giving advice out to you all? And, pretty much I sit here. I promise you, I listen and I just try to, be here here for you. That's what, this late night calls are for. But I do, being trained marriage and family therapist, I do give some credit to my training. So I want to talk to you specifically about the type of therapy that I like to give, the kind I do. It's a kind of a postmodern kind of approach, so it's basically close to where we're at now. It did start in the 70s with Mary McClure. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mary McClure Golding and her husband Robert L. Golding. The type of the therapy that I like to do, my go-to, my favorite. This is what I feel powerful with when I'm saying down in front of my clients, is redecision therapy. Yes, sounds easy enough. You just decide what you want to do, and bam, everything's better. No, that's not all. There's a lot more to it, but that's my favorite. That's what I like to go to. That not usually for kids when I'm working with them because of the life experience, but that's what I like to do. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Actually, I want to start. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Redecision therapy comes out with the idea. This is born of a couple other therapies, including a lot of work with Virginia Satir, who I absolutely adore and wish I could have met in my lifetime. Anyhow, but they got together, and redecision therapy is the idea, the thought that if you had a incident that made you kind of the way you are, you can go back and basically kind of redecide that over again. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Okay, this is follow along with me, guys and girls. Okay, so let's say you are in a kind of a strict household. Okay, parents are a little strict. Not there's no abuse or anything like that, but just strict. And you come home one day and you have a horrible grade, and your dad. I'm just always seems to be with the dads. Your dad comes down and looks at you and says, "You're not going to be worth anything because you got C's. You need to try harder," so on and so forth. And you feel crushed. You did your best in whatever assignment it is. This is. You feel crushed. But however, even though you've grown up through the years, you make it. You're successful as much as you can. Things like that. That was a pivotal moment in your mind that helped direct you the way you are feeling. So if you come to me with issues, we talk, we do a contract and therapy contract. I mean, where I'm going to basically take you back in time. We're going to get emotional. We're going to talk about your feelings and things like that. So that's part of the contract. The other part of the contract is you're willing to lead me on your journey of what these situations were. So using redecision therapy, we would basically kind of like a guided meditation, go back in time. You would sit there and describe the situation when this happened with your dad. Okay, so you'd say, for example, I was in the kitchen. It was, it felt cold. Mom was at the sink doing whatever. Dad was sitting at the table, and I had to show him my grade. As a kid, I was scared because I knew he wasn't going to be happy with me, and I've always strived to make them happy. Blah blah, whatever. So I mean, you get into detail. So what we do is then we freeze frame it. I mean, and I'm breaking this down easy because we don't have much time left on our podcast. But so we freeze frame it. And the today you, I'm going to say you, go back and you walk into your kitchen. You see yourself sitting there in front of your dad scared. What we do is we have you go back up to your child, to the child. That's I'm going to use the child. You go back up to the child. What do you tell yourself? How do you comfort yourself at that time? Do you go up and say, "Hey, you're going to grow up to be a great person. Don't worry about it"? Is it even a worse situation like this? Let's talk about abuse. Do you take yourself away to a safe place like a beach? We can go all sorts of different things. And then what we do is basically come back and you confront your father in this case, and tell him, Dad, I got a C on this grade. That doesn't define me. I still worked my butt off. I wasn't perfect, but I'm happy now. I have a wife. I have a house. I have this. I have a husband, even whatever, and you tell your father, you redecide that moment is not going to define who you are now. You're redeciding that issue. Now, again, I simplified it. Okay. Um, yeah, I did. I simplified it. But it helps so much because you're going back and you're basically confronting that. Now, this goes back along the lines of a what you are is where you were when kind of mentality from a Dr. Morris Massey. Once again, going slow for everyone who's writing this down, which, by the way, you shouldn't be because this is not actual therapy for you. But anyhow, what you are is where you were when. So that idea is usually I was taken from business back in the day when I was at Sacramento State University. Uh, what you are is where you were when is basically how you were molded. For example, quickly is if you were born in the 50s and you lived through, the whole worried about nuclear war, you grew up in one certain kind of pattern. Mom was at home, dad was at work, all this is what molded you. And this is usually from the ages of 5 to maybe 15. That's the thing. And that's how you are set. Now, things can change slightly, of course. Not everyone's perfect, but the idea is you're kind of set into that pattern. Great. Okay. Then it takes a significant emotional event, or a SEE, to break that pattern. Basically, you're a clay pot, you crack it, you rebuild it. So that's what you are is where you were when. Now, this boils over to psychotherapy with the Gouldings and redecision therapy. Basically, our significant emotional event is the redecision. See how that works? See how that's great? So that's why I like to do that, because it's a powerful tool. Now, the great thing is, because we've, the past couple of weeks during our podcast here, we've talked about how this works with everyone, or not this, but how therapy is good for everyone. And there are different groups of people that don't come into therapy. There are groups that do. Um, People of color, for example, there's a trend that, uh, they take care of their emotional issues, usually with family and church, for example. Not always, but that's a stereotype there. Um, but redecision therapy can move beyond that. Um, Redecision therapy goes beyond any kind of issues of culture, context, or social injustice. Let me explain why. Okay, so take it back with me. As I said, Virginia Satir was a huge component in the Gouldings. They were actually good friends. They used to go party, have dinners, and all that stuff. And they would sit there. I could just imagine them sitting on a porch out there in not Central California, Northern California, near Napa, drinking some wine, having some fun, and chatting. Hey, I had this case, blah blah blah. I would love to be there, but I'm a nerd. So anyhow, but they're out there talking. And Virginia Satir, for example, she has been going all over the world because her form of therapy, that feeling, that bonding with the family, doesn't require any of your own baggage. It requires you to connect and get the stories and get the feeling from the actual client. Okay, see what this means? This is beyond any sort of culture that needs to be done. You're explaining, as the client to me, you're explaining to me your culture. So that's great, as long as you're able to push your stuff aside. So Dr. Grace Chung and Cecilia Chan wrote, um, where was it here? As you know, I bring this all here. This is quoted on page 2, or page actually 200 of their contemporary family therapy paper. Uh, Knowledge is irrevocably tied to tradition, the ontological condition which makes understanding possible. Okay, so this is a powerful thing. How this theory, how Satir's basically giving to redecision therapy helps transcend everything. The knowledge is tied to the tradition. The tradition is part of stories. If you come in and you explain to me your traditions and I don't have any bias, you tell me your stories and I don't have any bias, I'm able to join with you and understand with you and help you redecide. Okay, does that make sense? I hope so. So this also falls in line with the idea of Leonard Campos in social justice, for example. We can always talk about, we can go on for several podcasts together, how there's inadequacies and injustices in everything for social justice. However, being able to take redecision therapy specifically in here, it can be applied to families, it can be applied to groups. Basically, you take that unit, that group, and redecide what, it might be more complicated, but you decide the issue that's at hand. Okay, so this is good for everyone. Okay, family and friends. Now we're going to move on. I want to tell you, right, my last little bit here. We're going to talk about a case. Okay, I'm not going to give you much because we're running out of time again. We're getting up close to our mark, but I want to tell you about a MMA fighter that I saw. I used redecision therapy on this person. They presented, young male. They were male, I'll tell you that. I won't tell you what city they were in where I was practicing. I can tell you this. It was not Los Angeles. It was not San Francisco. So you have the rest of California for that. But a young Hispanic male, he was under age 25. He was a mixed martial arts fighter. Nice guy, having some problems. Came to see me because of his depression, major horrible depression. But some of this was stemming from his relationship with his dad. This is also stemming some his relationship with his past religion. He was Catholic. Uh, so we sit down, we start talking. I go over, hey, this is what therapy's for. And actually, because of his age, I was like, let's do some solution focus actually. But I didn't like that. Something was telling me that there was something deeper that he was going to need to kind of evaluate for himself. It wasn't solution focus. I mean, I could tell him go take drugs and feel better, and then hey, there's your solution kind of thing. No, this is going to be a little deeper. So I switched back over to, as I said, redecision, my favorite. We sat there, we went over a verbal contract, telling what we're going to do, how we're going to go back in time, and he was game. He was fine with it. First session, yeah, we tried to go back. I talked about his critic, which is basically your internal part that is always trying to protect you, but basically makes you feel like hell. Then we talked about the parent, which is you now. Hey, I can't cross the street without the light, because that would be dangerous. That's your parent, is telling you the good things. And then your child is the one that either gets hurt or B is just, very excited about trying new things. So I started interviewing them, which is a normal process of redecision therapy, each of those individual parts of him. And at first we did the kid, and my client was like, oh, this is just wacky, weird mumbo jumbo. We got to his critic. We interviewed that in the next session, and then we started going back in time, and we sat there in front of his dad. We went back to a fight that he remembered his mom and dad having and that he was witnessing, and how it would just kind of blew him away with his dad. And he basically formed a bad opinion of what his dad was. He thought, at the time, he thought his dad was cheating, and his dad wasn't. But that molded him. Now, we were able to talk in his family, his culture. He was not able to go really see a therapist. He decided to come on his own, which took a lot of guts for him, because everyone in his family was going to think that he was nuts. Side note, by the way, guys, listeners, he was fine. I brought them all in together at one point, and they were so supportive. But anyhow, he told me, blank, my culture doesn't believe in therapy. We talk to God and we talk to our family, and that's why Hispanic people, and this is his words, have huge families, because we support each other. But he wasn't getting what is needed. So we confronted his dad within the dream, if that's a better word to say. We confronted his dad, and I have never had a strong, physically fit guy who could kick my butt in the ring break down and cry so hard. It wasn't from being scared of being back in that redecision. It wasn't anything like that. It was him redeciding and kind of coming to the conclusion that his relationship with his dad has been skewed all this time. His story that he had, what he thought was going on, how he was made to feel was not correct for this time. He was stronger than that. And so that was very emotionally strong for him. And it was amazing. I felt connected. I didn't tell him that, I kept my stoic look. Yes, I'm helping you here. I'm glad you're feeling better, blah, blah, blah. But that one hit me. I mean, even for me, for a year later to, tell my listeners here that's what's going on. So anyhow, that's it for tonight. Feel free to kick back in next week with my podcast. Tell your friends. Visit any of my sponsors. Oh, wait, I don't have any sponsors because I need more of your listeners. So instead of visiting my sponsors, please go tell your friends and family to, chime on in. These are short sessions. This is a little bit over tonight, about 45 minutes instead of the normal 30. So, but still, tell your friends, come in, and then we're going to start getting sponsors. And then eventually Oprah Winfrey is going to hear about me, and then I'm going to be the next Dr. Phil, but I'm actually going to be good. You guys take care. Have a good night. Say your prayers. Enjoy yourself. Hug your family if you can. Hug your friends if you can. Just be good to each other. Take care.